Hey you guys, Happy New Year. It is the 12th of January, 8 days till my birthday. I love January because it's my birthday month. And yeah, I just always have loved January. So, how are you? Did you have a good holiday? Have you had a good start to your year, to your January? We have not. So the day after Christmas, I woke up not feeling well, had a sore throat, didn't get any better, turned into COVID. Then my younger son got it, and then my husband got it, and it's been a party, a germ party in my house, but all well, doing good. So 2023 started with a glitch, but she's okay so far. So I've got my notebooks. I have started writing a little bit of poetry. So I've got a notebook for that. And then I have my book journal. In my book journal every year, which is just a notebook. I don't go through the whole pretty, which I love everybody's journals. I think they're gorgeous, but I just don't have time to do that. I don't have the oomph to do it. So in my journal, I've got the month, and I've got the books that I read, what I started them on GOODREADS, and what genre they are. So I've read 5 books so far this month, and I have them here to tell you about. And then I got this great planner. I always like a planner. And then by about mid-April, I realized the sucker is empty. So I'm going to, again, try and fill in my planner. So this one I got at Target, and it's a large one. It's like 8.5 by 11. But, yeah, it's real pretty. It's real empty at the moment. So I need to go in and add birthdays and all that kind of stuff and get her started to be filled up. I started like a year or two ago ditching the journal and diary idea because I just couldn't stick with it. So I started writing down just a little bit of what happened in the day in, the slot for the day in the calendar, and that worked really well because sometimes not much happens, or sometimes a lot happens, and then I'm kind of like getting it all in the block. But it is a quick reference to, document what happened for the day. And this one's nice because it has pockets I can put things in, and it has dividers. I think this one was $19.99 again at Target. Again, I have read 5 books this month so far, and it's interesting, they're all in a different genre. So I've read a memoir, I've read an autobiography, a historical fiction, a fiction, and a thriller. So I'll go in order of when I finish them. So this one, I wanted to kick off my year. I planned sometime in November or December to read this at the beginning of this year, and I started it, I don't know, like the 30th of December. I finished it either the 1st or the 2nd of the month. The Salt Path by Raynor, Winn. This is a memoir, or I guess you could call it a nature essay kind of story. She and her husband, Moth, who I still can't, his name is Moth. Anywho, they go walking, and not just ordinary walking. They walk over 600 miles from Dorset to Somerset, or the other way around. Anywho, it's a lot of walking along the southwest coast path through Devon and Cornwall, and they lose their house due to financial issues. They find themselves in dire straits because of that, and then her husband is diagnosed with a terminal illness. The writing is really good in this book, but I think I was just hoping it was going to be more moving, more inspiring, and it was a little dull. There's a lot of walking, and again, I know that's what it's about, but they walk, and then there's a pub, and they go in the pub, and they walk some more, then they camp, and there's a lot of camping, which, yes, I understand that. They're walking and living outside. But it just, I guess I just wanted more of an agenda. I gotta have a plan. We're walking because, I don't know, there seemed to be a mission, but not. Anywho, there was a lot of dialogue, which I think slowed it down. And there was a bit of repetitiveness. So they encounter people, you know, on their walk. They encounter people, and then the people are like, hey, what are you doing? Where are you going? Where are you headed? And they repeat that a lot. So it was kind of like, by the fourth person, I wanted to say, they're walking, leave them alone, let them do their thing, and let's keep moving along. But yeah, I don't know. It was okay. So I gave this actually 3 stars, I think, on Goodreads. She does have a follow-up to that book, and I think there's 1 or 2 books after that, which I do intend to read, but not at this moment. So the next book I read was an autobiography, and this is Viola Davis's new book called Finding Me. And I'd seen this actually in the library a month or 2 before Christmas, and I was intrigued. I mean, the cover is stunning. And I don't really go for tell-alls or celebrity books. I mean, I'll read one every once in a while, but I'm not like, oh, gotta read that one about, you know, whoever that is. But I kept seeing this on my Goodreads updates, and everyone was giving it 5 stars. So I had to jump on and read it and see what I thought. So I went ahead and bought it, because then when I went to the library to go get it, I could never see it again. So that's how it is with me. It's there and I don't get it. And then when I go back, it's like it's never there. So this is a memoir, autobiography, and she's only 57. So it's not, you know, going to be her whole life story, but it is quite packed with a lot. And Viola, if you're not familiar, she is the actress from the movie The Help, which that's where I know her from. She was excellent in that movie. So this is her telling, her sharing of her growing up, and it's not terribly long. And the majority of it is about 8-year-old Viola. She was born in South Carolina, and then she lived a lot of her young age in Rhode Island. And she had siblings, she had parents who loved her fiercely, but they were so broken in different ways that it was hard to nurture her in the ways that perhaps Viola needed. Her father was an alcoholic, he was an abuser, and it's just a real powerful, raw, honest story of real life. And, you know, it's very hard to judge memoirs with ratings because someone lived them. So it's not like, oh, I give your life a 1 or I give your life a 5. But I did rate this on Goodreads because I always rate books, but I gave it a 4. It is upfront and personal, just like the cover. And again, it's mostly about young Viola and how her childhood, her family life, her growing up shaped her into who she is today, how she has overcome so much, and I think she has a bright, long future ahead of her. So she does a really good job at sharing and being real and honest, and you can hear her voice through the pages telling you about herself. So I really enjoyed this. It does, after when she's 8, it goes to her college days, and then her actress career starts. So highly recommend this one. Next up, I read historical fiction. So this is Mrs. England by Stacey Halls, and I was so looking forward to this book because last year, at the beginning of last year, I read her book, The Lost Orphan, which is the American title. The UK title was The Foundling, I think. And when I knew that she was going to have a new book, I was just very excited about it. So Mrs. England is about this nanny, and it's set in 1904 and in England, and she is taking care of a child in this family, and the family's going to move to America, and they want her to go too, and she says, no, I cannot, I'm sorry, I have family here. So she goes back to the school, to the agency, to be placed in another family's care as a nanny, and that family has one child or two, now I can't remember, but Mrs. England is the mother, the wife in that family, and there are a lot of secrets. It promises secrets, but you don't really know anything until the end of the book, and it's written beautifully. It's not terribly long, but it is dense reading, if that makes any sense. Halls is a wonderful writer. I love her writing style, but this book, it just didn't go any direction I thought it would. The cover even, it promises sinister to me. I thought this was going to be more than it was, and it was such a disappointment, frankly. I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry, because I was just, again, disappointed. It's about her being a nanny and this family. I kept thinking, well, the husband's going to be weird. Well, the wife's going to be weird. I mean, something's going to give, right? I mean, I'm looking for sinister. Because the foundling, there was intrigue, and there was, you know, more meat to the story at hand. And this one, I felt like it just never got going. So it's a gorgeous cover, but I think I'm going to be donating that one. So the next book I read was a 5-star read, and it was fantastic. So Meredith Alone by Claire Alexander. I highly recommend. 5 stars, over 5 stars. This book was fantastic. It was just so good. You got to read this book. So this is fiction. It is about Meredith. She lives alone. She's almost 40, and she has had a traumatic episode in her life, a situation that has kind of forced her to close up shop, to hunker in, to stay home, and she hasn't left her home for over 3 years. And you don't learn everything about Meredith until maybe the halfway point in the book, where the author gives you more of what's happened, what's gone on, and why Meredith is really acting like this. And it's so beautiful. So Meredith connects with her mother, her sister, and her best friend. And there's this guy, Tom, who visits her. He is from, I guess, a charity. I can't remember now what the name of the charity. It's like this group that checks on people who are either homebound or those who are just not working with society like perhaps they should. So he checks in on her weekly, and they form a friendship, and their relationship is just very unique and special. And, you know, Meredith has something going for her because she does have a network of people who care for her. And you have to think about, you know, there are people out there who close up and just kind of hide away from the world, and they don't have that support system. So Meredith, I think, had that going for her from the get-go. At least she had those people to check in on her and make sure she was okay. There are trigger warnings for self-harm, suicide, rape, and assault, and domestic issues. So there's a whole slew of things in this book that are heavy, but the author has a way of really incorporating them so well that when something hard was thrown in at first, it was like, whoa, what? I mean, it's not a fluffy read because, again, she's struggling with mental health. She's at home away from people, and she can't go outside. Cannot, will not. But when something is thrown to the reader, you're like, wait a minute, it's done in such a way that it's really beautiful. So I loved Meredith. I thought that she was a class act, and I was rooting for her, and she has a pet, a cat, Fred, and you will just fall in love with Meredith. So highly recommend. And the 5th book that I read this month so far, I finished last night, and it was The Last to Vanish by Miranda. I haven't had good luck with Miranda. I've read 1 or 2 of her previous thrillers, and they've been good. I think there was one that I guessed it was very predictable, and I just felt it was kind of fantastical, and I didn't know if I would read her books again, but I saw this at the library, and I haven't read a thriller in a while, so I'm so glad I did. It's not terribly long. It took me a night and half a day or something. Again, I read fast, but this was fun, and it's very, very atmospheric. So this is set in the mountains. It's in a small town in North Carolina, and it gives the illusion that it's near the Appalachian Trail. It kind of sets you in this mountain area, very naturalistic, and it is all around, the story is set all around this cozy resort where people come and stay the weekend, or they go hiking and they do outdoors things, and then they stay here for a couple nights and move on. But in this particular place called the Passage Inn, I think it is, almost 2 decades ago, there were 4 guys who went missing. And then fast forward, there were 3 or 4, I've lost track. I think there were three people who went missing separately. So Abby, the main character, she works in this inn, and she has kind of a mysterious connection to the town. You're not really quite sure. And she is kind of the glue that's holding this inn together. And this guy comes to town. His brother was one of the recent ones who went missing. So it's about missing hikers and, unearthing old cold cases, and it's really well done. This book, again, is so atmospheric. You feel from page 1 to the end that you are at the end, that you are seeing these people going hiking, doing their outdoors things, that you are there, and that is quite a craft for the author to really hold you in that location and make it feel like you are there. So that was fantastic. The characters were okay. I gave this 4 stars on Goodreads, more like 4.5. I didn't figure it out, shall we say. There was an element that I did kind of figure out, but I think my main problem with this was, again, there are 4 people in the beginning who had disappeared, and then 3 separate ones. The 4 were a group, and then the 3 separate later were separate disappearances, and it was just too much, either do one or the other. I felt like you didn't have to have all those people missing, because are you going to connect their stories or not? And at the end, it seemed like kind of all over the place, and trying to pinpoint this person here and this disappearance, and that was a little too much. But otherwise, it was a really good, really fun thriller. So if you like page turners, definitely check it out. So those are the books that I have read so far this month, and I'm on a roll. I mean, I don't know what I'm going to start next. I have a couple books out from the library. It's my birthday month, like I had said, so I usually buy a lot of books for my birthday. That's the reading update from me. I hope you are well. I hope you're reading lots. If you read something stupendous, please drop a comment. Let me know and I'll check it out. And yeah, I am on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. I had deleted my Sampler Girl Facebook page because I just couldn't maintain it. I just felt like I wasn't designing enough to warrant keeping that up. And yeah, you like and subscribe and you enjoy the content you find here, and I will see you soon.